Hi, this is Heather Smith here, and today we are joined by Angela and Lauren, and they're going to talk to us about Projectworks. Angela, can I hand over to you initially to give us introduce yourself, and Lauren, if you can introduce yourself, and then we can start talking about Projectworks.
Wonderful. Thanks, Heather. I'm Angela Beswick and I head up our partnership channel at Projectworks. So I've been with the business just over a year now and started the channel around this time last year and created a new go-to-market channel where we've started working with accountants and bookkeepers and implementation partners globally to talk and share the good word about Projectworks.
Fabulous. And Lauren?
Thanks, Heather. I'm Lauren Parsons. I'm a product specialist at Projectworks on the sales team. So I'm here to answer some of the more technical and tricky questions that come through during the sales process. And I've been at Projectworks for nearly 3 years now.
Fabulous, fabulous. Thank you very much, Lauren. And Angela, you're going to give us an overview of what Projectworks does.
Yeah, absolutely. So Projectworks is a financial management platform for professional services businesses, particularly those who run projects and need a really good handle on the financial management of those projects. So the likes of architects, engineering consultancies, management consultants, and software consultants who, have budgets that they need to manage. They need to have a really good handle on their margins and know exactly what revenue is coming into the business. So size-wise, we really fit well with businesses that are 20 up to 300 staff because we have some really nice resourcing capability in the product, which Lauren can show as part of a demo today, which will be really nice. We a global business, so we're multi-currency. A key differentiator for us is that we actually have the capability to have multiple entities within Projectworks. So for the larger businesses who maybe have multiple Xero accounts because they are multi-entity, we can have a single Projectworks instance and link up to multiple Xeros or whatever their accounting system is to help them have good reporting capability.
That's really key, especially as businesses are growing across the world quite globally. We're really seeing a lot of businesses doing that. So that's a really useful feature there. Anything else that you'd like to share?
Yeah, we have quite a deep integration with multiple systems, right from lead generation, we link up into HubSpot. So that's a really nice integration where businesses can track leads, track opportunities, and decide at what stage they want to send that information across to Projectworks. We also integrate with obviously multiple accounting systems, which is really key to be able to send invoicing information and expense information across to the accounting system. So it's a single entry, no double handling of data. The information's input once and it's sent across to the accounting system. So the accounting system knows exactly what's going on with the business.
Excellent. And what systems, what industries does it not work well with? What industries perhaps come to you and you're like, no, you shouldn't be using us?
Yeah, for sure. So anybody who has inventory that they need to keep track of, those businesses who are fabricating products, we don't work with anybody who really stores, manufactures product. We really focus on services businesses.
Excellent, excellent. And should you tell me now, or as we get into the demonstration, what information pushes across into the general ledger solution?
So when a project is created within Projectworks, and Lauren can walk through this process in detail, we map to the general ledger accounts within the accounting system. So each budget line, which is a pot of money in Projectworks term, would map to a general ledger account within Xero. So when an invoice goes across to Xero or to MYOB or to QuickBooks, the line item will automatically map to the relevant general ledger account within the accounting system. That's the same for expenses. So you map it within Projectworks, and when it goes across to the accounting system, that information is mapped automatically, waiting for the payment to come in or the payment to go out of the accounting system if it's a expense or a supplier invoice that's been paid.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Angela. Lauren, would you like to start giving us a demonstration?
Absolutely. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Lovely. So I thought that we could start off by showing you a high-level overview in our project financials screen, and then we can kind of show a few different reporting dashboards that we have in Projectworks, and then get a bit into the details of what you can see within a project. So this is our project financials report. This lists all of the projects in Projectworks in my system, and I've grouped it by the projects that are by their burn percentage. So are we over budget? Are we nearing over budget? So up at the top here, I can very easily see lots of red. These are my projects that are over budget already. So if I scroll down further, I can see these projects here are getting pretty close to being over budget, so maybe I should go in there and figure out what I can do to keep these on track. So I have the project names, what the budget is for the projects, what's been worked, the current burn progress, so the spend, and what's being projected to work. So I think that's one of the best features of Projectworks, is that we not only look at the past, we look at timesheets, invoices, all of that, what actuals, but we also look into the future. So we look at what's being projected to work into the future. So we have resourcing, which I'll touch on later. And we also take into account revenue forecasting. So what are we planning to invoice in the future per month? I think a lot of systems do a pretty good job at looking at the past, but the beauty of Projectworks is really taking that, looking into the future. So knowing where you're going to end up at the end of a project. So this is a really good example, the moon landing project. We're currently 63% through of the budget, but we're actually projected to go very much over the budget by the end of the project. So that is jumping out immediately at me as I need to make some decisions on what to do there. So if I scroll to the top on all the reports,
automatically fall into place in over budget in those categories, or did
it
you?
does.
Okay.
It automatically.
And how many projects at any one time could we have?
Unlimited.
Okay.
There's no limit to that. Yeah. So I like grouping by this, but on the same, kind of in a similar token, you can group by any of these things. So maybe you just want to group by project manager. You just want to see your own projects and margin percentage. So that's another really key piece of Projectworks. You can see what profit you're currently making on your project and also what you're projected to make. So I could group by margin as well. And then I can use filters at the top. So Projectworks has lots of different filters where I can, narrow down by project manager, by business unit, by sector. I can create custom fields and filter just depending on whatever I want to see in this screen. So that is the project financials report. We can also go into just one level deeper real quick. We have budget financials. So this is grouped by project, and I can just see a next level deeper. So in Projectworks, we have projects. Within projects, we have budget lines and then time codes. And what this report is showing me is the burn progress at the budget line level. So this is another really handy report. Now, next we'll move into resourcing. So if I look at resourcing, by availability, this is essentially showing me how busy are my staff, and how much availability do they have? Do they have enough work? So at a high level, we'll start with this graph up here at the top. This is listed by week. This pink line is showing me the billable target for my organization, my company. Yellow means availability, and this green means resourcing against a billable work. So ideally, what I'd want to see here is this green bar going up and meeting that pink line, meaning you've met your billable target for that week. What I don't want to see is what I'm seeing right now. There's lots of yellow. So that's telling me people don't have enough work. They're not resourced against billable projects. So maybe I need to drum up some more work for the staff. If I scroll down a bit further, I can see it's broken down by team. So the users within each team, and the coloring means the same. Yellow is how available they are, so 40 hours of availability. Green means they have been resourced, and red means they've been over-resourced. And we have filters that work in a similar way. We can narrow down by team, location, project manager, position. And something really awesome about Projectworks is that you can pretty much create a user matrix to track skills or certification or training levels for staff. So in this example, I have technical skills, so I could narrow down and see staff that have analytical skills, and I could see how busy they are. And if I wanted to, I could actually click into those hours and resource them straight into a project from there.
And I imagine the skills are customizable.
Yes, absolutely. Yep,
I
completely
imagine it's
customizable.
a really good way to see if you're recruiting new people, what areas you need to recruit them into in terms of what skills that are required.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, if you see a lot of red on the screen, you know you definitely need to go through a recruitment exercise for sure.
Yep. Cool. So there are some other reports that we can have a look at. So another really key report that our customers love is the utilization target report. So this is showing me the utilization of the staff. So we have it rolled up at the organization level up here, and I can choose the date. So I'm looking at this report for December last year, 2023. I have all my staff listed on the left-hand side. This little icon's telling me who is a hourly worker. The rest would be salaried. And I can see their billable time that they've worked. In this column, if they've worked on any non-billable projects in the next column. And if I'm looking at this report into the future, I can also see my projected, what they're projected to work on in terms of resourcing, if I was looking at it in a future date. So from there, I can see the utilization hours, what the percentage is, and what their target hours are. So I can see whether they've reached their utilization target or not. So when you set up a person in Projectworks, you indicate what their utilization target is if they have one. So this is a really powerful report, again, to see how are people tracking. We also have the ability, again, to filter by role, line manager, team, and you can choose whether you want to measure against total capacity or capacity minus leave. And then you can choose if you include or exclude the non-billable time on billable projects.
Lots of access to lots of different pieces of information, which I'm sure people like using.
Absolutely.
Everyone wants to look at something different, and it's very neatly laid out.
Yeah, that's a lot of the feedback that we get. It has really rich data, really rich reporting, and it's pretty user-friendly. A few other key reports I'll touch on our margin report. So we have really strong margin reporting. So if I go to the report section and I filter by margin, these are some of the reports that we have highlighting margin. So if we look at, let's start margin by project. So this report is really great for the execs, the leaders of the company that want to see how much profit are we making across all of our projects. So we have what our current margin is. This is live data right now. And we also have projected margin. So for those projects that we have put future data in resourcing, revenue forecasting, that's going to help us determine what our projected margin is. And you can see the breakdown. This is across all projects right now. I can see the breakdown margin on time on the left-hand side, and then the margin on expenses. And if I scroll down even further, I'm able to see a list of all the projects, what their current margin is, projected margin. So it just kind of breaks down that information up at the top that's all rolled up. And I can group by company, account manager, project manager, and add columns that I want to see or take away columns that I don't want to see. So again, all of these reports are really quite flexible in terms of what the user is seeing.
And I presume the column headers allow you to sort as well?
They do, yep.
So if you want to identify which is has a really high margin, you can just do that as well.
Absolutely, yep. So yeah, that's a good project.
Yes, we would like more of those projects.
Yes, please. One other thing to note here is that we are, as Angela said, we're multi-currency. So if you have companies in different locations, there would be a drop down here with multiple currencies, and we have a currency converter behind the scenes that does a live currency conversion. Cool. So the last one on the margin is margin by person. So this, let's look at a month that has a bit more information. There we go. So I'm looking in the past, November of last year. This is going to list all of my staff members in a given time frame. So I'm looking at this for over a month. And again, lots of columns. So I can see the billable work they've done in hours for the month of November, the value of that billable work, what their average billable rate is, how much revenue they've generated, what their cost is to the company, and then what their margin is from there. So I can...
Who's generated the most revenue?
George Clooney is looking pretty good.
He's overpaid there, doesn't he?
Al Pacino, not so much. Oh, Denzel, he's done pretty good too. Tom Hanks. So again, yeah, exactly. You can sort by any of these columns to see who's generated the most revenue and who has the highest margin and who has the lowest margin as well. A really awesome feature on this report is that you can decide how you calculate the revenue. So I think by default, it defaults to invoiced work. So you're just looking at what's been invoiced. However, you could look at the accrued value. So that's the invoiced work plus any time in WIP that you haven't invoiced yet. Or you could just look at the value of that work. So what's been worked, but is not looking at invoices at all. Cool. So that's kind of a few high-level reports, but I thought it might be helpful to go into a single project so we can drill down into the details a bit to see what you could see in a project that's already in motion. So in this example project, this is called Moon Landing, and this is for the company of NASA. I have my total budget here in the blue box of $110,000. I can very easily say what my current burn is, 63%, and also what I've invoiced on the project as well. I'm under budget, I like that. If I scroll down a bit further, I could also see the budget lines. So again, Projectworks has projects. Within those projects, we have budget lines. And then time codes. So we do go one level deeper. And I can see here that while I'm under budget on the total project, I am actually over budget in this specific budget line, develop spacecraft. So I can see what I've spent even on each time code within that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I could even, narrow it down to budgets based on time. Or if I just want to see budgets based on expenses, I could narrow that down that way. If I click this projected burn tile up here at the top, this is another great visual to show you where your project is at. So this red line up here is the total budget, 110,000. This dotted gray line here is the worth of what's been worked in timesheets so far. And this dotted gray line is the worth of what's being projected to work in resourcing into the future. So I can immediately say that in terms of what I've resourced, we are actually due to go over budget very soon, within the next few days, it looks like. So that's not great. I can make some decisions to scale that back. I can also layer on other key pieces of information like projected revenue. So that's this blue line. This is the amount that I'm planning to invoice. And I can also see what have I actually invoiced to date so far in this blue bar.
It's very nifty.
Yeah, our customers really love this graph.
And I assume that all the different things that you're showing, that you can restrict people's access to work on it or access it or view it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point. So we have a very robust access level permissions feature. So it's highly customizable. You're able to really drill down into the details. You can make new access levels. So you could say project managers can only see details about their own projects, but they can't see any details about margin and cost. So they wouldn't be able to see that sensitive information. Only system admins could see that.
And it seems to me that probably if you had a lot of staff, they're not going into the GL, they're not going into Xero or QuickBooks or MYB, they're just going to stay here. And there'll be sort of maybe someone who correct me if I'm wrong, someone who overviews what passes through, and then someone who sits in the GL.
Yep, that's absolutely right. I would say probably for most companies, most staff would see a really pared down view. Let me just see if I already have. I do. So most staff would be what we call time and expense users. So they have a really simplified view. They would be able to see what they've been resourced to. They wouldn't be able to change it. They could just see it. They would be able to see their timesheet. And we can circle back to that in terms of what a timesheet looks like. They would be able to log expenses and then log leave if they're using those features. So they wouldn't even be able to go to projects.
Mm-hmm.
One more thing to touch on in this project would be the metrics. So we looked at this at a really high level, but if you wanted to see it at a single project level, this is where the margin, the profitability reporting will live within the metrics tab. So same thing in the previous projects, we have current margin, projected margin, broken down by time and expenses. And if I scroll down, this is what most people will definitely not see, is this cost information. So the staff that are working on this project, their hourly cost to the company, what they've logged, the number of hours they've logged in their timesheets and what that cost is, and also what they've been resourced to work into the future and what that cost is. And that's how we get the projected, that contributes to the projected margin.
Excellent. Good to see Kate Winslet's charging the most. Oh no, Denzel's almost, he's beaten her.
Close.
Almost per hour.
Yep. Cool. So if we look at a few things within this project, a few other things, a forecast. This is another really key feature of Projectworks. So let me just start with this view. So the forecast is the revenue forecast in Projectworks. That's the amount that you're planning to invoice per month and per budget line. So in this example here, I am planning to invoice $10,000 in the month of April for develop boosters. Now, perhaps if you invoice using percent complete, I can add that column and it can actually calculate. Now, I've already done some invoicing, which is why some of my numbers are funny. But in this test rocket example, I could say I'm just going to invoice 10% and it'll calculate that. And next month, I'm going to invoice, or I'll be 30% complete. So I'm going to invoice 20% extra. So it automatically calculates that amount. Something really handy on this screen is this compare with burn feature. So if I just look at May, for example, and I zoom in a bit, I'm able to see that I've input here, I'm planning to invoice $24,000 worth, but I can see so far I've worked $0 in the worth of timesheets. I haven't done anything yet, but I've resourced $34,000 worth. So if you're invoicing using time and materials, this should give you a pretty good indication of what you'll be invoicing. Whereas if you're invoicing using a fixed fee, that'll be very clearly seen here what that difference is between what's been worked and what you're planning to invoice using that fixed fee. So if we zoom back out, furthering to revenue forecasting, we can kind of look at a higher level as well. We have a 12-month forecast by project. So across all of my projects, I don't have much revenue forecasting in this case, but I would be able to see a number per month of what I'm planning to invoice. So this is great for the finance team, for those executives to see how much money we're planning to invoice per month. So getting into the resourcing. So this is resourcing, again, on a single project. So just real quickly, I will kind of highlight what we can do in resourcing within a single project. So I'm looking at this in a weekly view, but I could look at it in a monthly view if needed, or I could even look at it in a daily view. So it's really great that it's so flexible. Those longer projects, we can roll it up to monthly. Those shorter projects, daily or weekly might be fine. The color coding means the same as in that resourcing by availability screen. Yellow is availability, green means they've been resourced, and red means they've been over-resourced. So here I can see Al Pacino is $0 or 0 hours on this project, but it's green. So if I want to see what else is he working on, why is he so busy, I could click this first icon and have a look. Oh, he's already 40 hours on this other project. I would be able to write a comment if I wanted to take some of his hours.
Oh, lost her.
Sorry.
You got excited about Al Pacino there.
I did. I got very excited. I would be able to write a comment, maybe saying to that project's project manager, I need
some time for Al Pacino.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep, on my own project. And let's save that. And I would be able, I think it was another week, but I would be able to see that who changed or added comments.
So if you're an employee, could you put out a call saying I've got 10 hours availability? via this system?
You'd certainly be able to see that. Not necessarily put like a call out. So at a higher level, either on the resourcing by availability screen or resourcing by person, you would clearly see who has availability. So if it's listed by person, in this example, let's find someone that's on a few projects, Matt Damon. I can see here that if I hover over the field, he has 30 hours available this week. These are the projects he's on.
So we've moved to a new area and we're looking at the integration page.
Cool. So what we can see here is this is how you would connect to an accounting platform. So we connect to Xero, QuickBooks Online, and MYOB AccountWrite. In this instance, I am connected to Xero, and this is all done when you're setting up with Projectworks initially. This isn't something that you have to do every time you want to send an invoice. So for example, here I can edit my mapping. So this is, again, done just one time. You might have offices in different locations. So everything on the left-hand side is what is in Projectworks, and everything on the right-hand side is what is in Xero. And this is what I've mapped to Xero in terms of invoicing, and I can do the exact same thing with expenses as well. And we also integrate with Xero tracking categories, which is really helpful. So we can help you get all of this set up during the onboarding process, and we have other integrations. So quickly, we have a Jira integration where you're able to log time directly in Jira within a Projectworks widget. Work similar to DevOps, time logging in DevOps through a Projectworks widget, straight to the Projectworks project. And then we also have a Chrome start-stop timer if you want to log time like that. And then we have an integration.
Do all the staff have the app on their browsers?
Yes, so they would have to install it within their Chrome, and they would choose what project and time code they want to log time to. So that can save some time. And then we do have an integration with HubSpot as well, the CRM. So if a deal moves to a predetermined stage, such as closed won, it will automatically create a project in Projectworks, and it can populate things like the billing contact and the budget amount. So I will just very briefly create a new project and kind of walk you through what the steps of that look like. So every project needs to have a name, test project 1, 2, 3. A project can be either billable or non-billable. Billable projects are the ones that we like. Non-billable projects are the ones that we want to track time, like trainings or meetings to. Company in Projectworks is your client, so it can be an external company. And the contractual status, so you can start a project in Projectworks as an unsigned opportunity, not sure if it's going ahead or not, then perhaps you've received a verbal, you can move it to unsigned committed, and then eventually it'll become a signed project. Lots of different reports in Projectworks you're able to filter by this contractual status. And actually, I've made a custom field for probability. So for these unsigned opportunities, I could say, yep, there's a 50% chance that's going to go ahead. And then I can kind of filter and see in other screens how many projects look like that. So I'm going to choose a project manager. Let's choose Al Pacino. And the organization, again, this only applies if your office is in different locations. So let's say Australia. So these next few fields, actually I'll change that to signed. These next few fields here, I've created as custom fields. So these are all customizable. You can really track anything you want.
I see a lot of people in the professional sector who start doing work before a signed contract is in place. because they love the work so much. And I think maybe having that, what's the likelihood of you getting paid for that? Like the way you had that, what's the percentage there, would be good for them to go through that mindset, because they just start the work because they love it so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point. So I can narrow down or choose a sector, and let's say it's one. So this next level down, this is where we build the budget up for the project. So there's a few different ways you can build the budget. You can start very granularly and say, I need a developer for 10 hours at $100 per hour, and kind of build it up. But just for today, we'll keep it simple, budget level, fee-based pricing. So this is where you can think, how do you work? Is it, do you break it down by phases or milestones or function? So it might look something like this: phase 1, phase 2. These budget lines will turn into invoice lines at the other end. And then perhaps you do track expenses like subcontractors or travel. So these first 3, people are going to log time against, so I'll leave them as time, and these expenses, I'll flick that over through to expenses. Now, if you know what the fee is for each of these budget lines, you can input that here. It's not required, you can always add it later. I'll just put in some numbers here. And this accounting code is what will link through directly to your accounting platform, Xero, QuickBooks Online, or MYOB AccountWrite. So every time you create an invoice, these GL codes are going to be alive behind the scenes, so you don't need to do this every single time. And again, you can have multiple GL codes, as many as you need. So we go a level deeper in Projectworks. Within budget lines, we have time codes. So this is where you can track time against a task or a subtask. So, or you could just track time at the phase level as well. But let's say this is subtask 1, subtask 2, and subtask 3. And you could finish it off on phase 2 and phase 3 as well. And so that's kind of an overview, a very quick overview of creating a project. If we save and close it, it'll take us to that project. Was there anything you wanted to add to that, Angela?
Maybe just around how, when we send invoices and expenses, what information actually goes across to the accounting systems?
So when we send an invoice over to the accounting system, we will, let's create an example invoice real quick. There's not going to be much in here. But what goes across will be this description, or well, the budget line name will go across, and the description, and then the amount. So this is where you'll say whether you want to pull through the time entries. You could manually create a line if you'd like. So this amount will go through to the accounting platform. And so once you create the invoice, let's approve it. You'd be able to bulk select invoices and then go ahead and export them over to Xero. You can choose whether it lands, in my case, in Xero as either a draft invoice or an invoice that's already approved. So that approval all happens within Projectworks. So you're definitely saving some time there. Invoices, you can also get the paid status of the invoice directly back into Projectworks as well once that's been paid. So that's quite handy. In terms of expenses, you're able to log expenses within Projectworks. You can send those expenses over to Xero as a bill to pay, and you can also get that paid status back into Projectworks.
Wow, excellent. It's so much granular detail in it.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful.
And people like working with technology. People like working with companies who are embracing good technology, because they know that not spending time wasting and faffing around on post-it notes and pieces of paper trying to sort everything out. This really gives you a clear view of profitability of projects, and being able to drive them.
And we also, although people love spreadsheets, and there's lots of debate about spreadsheets versus technology, we do enable spreadsheets to be removed from resourcing. Often businesses are resourcing using spreadsheets, and they're having meetings and conversations, but it's not in the software, and therefore you can't use the data to forecast if it's in a spreadsheet. And the same with revenue forecasting. Often business owners either have it in their head or it's on a spreadsheet, and again, can't help in terms of their forecasting of their business profitability. So yeah, spreadsheets is another good one to tick off in terms of we can get rid of a few.
Yeah, absolutely. But it still has a nice spreadsheet feel to it in terms of the way it looks, the sorting ability, the ability to cleanly bring up the data. So it's almost like a very clean spreadsheet, but with the more bells and whistles on it.
I wanted to just quickly mention our onboarding process. I forgot to mention that earlier. So we do have quite a robust onboarding process. We can do a full data migration from whatever system you're coming from. So if you send us your data, wherever it's coming from, we'll be able to get that into a Projectworks environment. We'll do a test migration for you, get you comfortable with the data and how it looks. And then, a few weeks later, we'll get you live, and we do offer training as well.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much, Lauren. Excellent. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for giving us that demonstration of how Projectworks works. How can people get in contact with you?
So they can come to our website and ask for a free trial or book a demo. That's one way. And then for any accountants and bookkeepers who are interested in becoming a partner, there's a partner section on our website, and they can fill in a form and register to be a partner. And if they have any clients that immediately spring to mind, there's referral forms on our website as well. So projectworks.io is our website, and all of the contact forms are there.
Excellent, excellent. So there's a number of options and a number of ways they can contact you and start a relationship with Projectworks. Thank you so much, Angela. Hope people who are watching this found it really useful and know how to get in contact with you. And I'll put a slide up at the end so people can see the complete details that Angela just mentioned. Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Heather.